Hey everybody, this is Alan Ting, TEDx speaker, number one best-selling author, and founder of Remarkable Parenting Academy. And welcome to another episode of Expert Series Interview. And today's topic is about why your child pushes you away, but really secretly wants you to come closer. And I have nobody better to talk about this topic than Krupke. Krupke, my apology. She is a licensed social worker. She's also a perennial mental health certification or specialist. She helps high performance, high achieving women break free from emotional overwhelm, guilt trip or guilty, burnouts and motherhood. And as a mental health expert, transformation coach, she also guides mothers in shifting their patterns of regulating their own emotions and reconnecting with intuition so that the mothers can feel calm, confident, and in control while balancing both career and motherhood. So I'm super excited to have Kate to be on our call because I've spoke with her extensively about different attachment theories. We're going to dive a lot more deep into that. And she brings so much uh, number of wisdom and understanding and education. And I just can't wait for us to have this conversation. So welcome, Kate, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Thank you, Alan. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having the conversation with me.
Okay, so let's just dive right into it. So, what happens when a child pushes a parent away? Because that never happens, right? Mom, go away. I don't want. Leave me alone. I don't want to hear it. Enough saying. Just tune off their ears, or just completely tune out. So, what happens emotionally or physically?
For the child or for the mom or both?
For both. Actually, yeah. So
Well,
let's talk about the typical process, right? Mom says, "Cause I said so," and the child's
yeah,
like, "Ugh," and it goes
yeah,
back and forth.
yeah. So I think it's first, let's start with what we know to be true, which is that maternal and child mental health are deeply interconnected. What we mean by that is a child's nervous system is going to be feeding off a mother's nervous system. Vice versa, of course, we're all human, moms and dads. I really want to remove this expectation that we're supposed to be calm all the time as parents. That's legitimately not possible. And we do know that that child is going to feed off us. And so we want to make sure that we have the capacity to reground ourselves when our nervous system gets escalated. When a child says, either, even they can say these things without words, right? Our nonverbal kids can do this just with their body language. But essentially, when a child says, Mom, I don't want you near me, they are in a process, or that is a moment of what we might call differentiation, right? That's a moment when that child is wanting to establish themselves as an individual. That is normal, that is natural, that's expected, and that's actually desired. We want that to be happening with our children because it's part of their identity formation. What happens for us is a whole other situation, right? Because you and I have been there, we're both parents, but for many of us, it's hard to not take it personally, right? Our nervous system is going to react, and we can want to react back and kind of attack the behavior. Maybe attack is too strong of a word, but discipline the behavior. And I think that is one of the things that is so important for us as mothers and as parents is to learn how to not take normal childhood behavior personally. We want to have boundaries, and we could talk about that too, Alan, today, but it's easy for us to go into this spiral of my child doesn't like me, my child doesn't love me, my child doesn't want me around, my child prefers the other parent or the care provider. Gosh, we can spin out. So I just kind of went in a bunch of different directions with your question, but those are some things that are happening in those moments.
Oh, I love it because you're talking about a process, right? It's all about
Yeah,
understanding a process. So
yeah,
essentially, if I can recap what you're saying is that when a child rejects us, it's actually a good thing because what we
yes,
really want is have them build their own agency, right? So what
that's
that means
right.
is building their own identity and who they are morphing into become a person. And obviously, we can talk about this for hours, right? And on top of that, there's an arc of the child development between the different ages. And as the kid continue to grow, especially in teenagers, and you and I have been teenagers. One, if the audience are hearing from this, you guys been all teenager once. We have a tendency to rebel, and that rebellion is actually not about um, well, it's part of pushing boundaries too, right? But the other part is about finding who we really are and how we become our own agency, our own independence is what essentially what that is, right?
Yeah, yes. And it begins around age 2 or 3, which is why we call it the terrible twos and the terrible threes, right? That age. And really, what's happening in that stage is that that small child's brain is entered a stage of development where they're now able to understand that they're separate from us. Until about age 2 or 3, that child believes they're the same person as us. It's a healthy enmeshment, right? It's really for survival. If we go back and look at the why does this happen in a child brain until about age 2 or 3, that's a survival part. Us and our children, a mother and a child, are just inherently enmeshed. But about age 2 or 3, give or take, that child's brain is developing to the point of being able to have a little more perspective, and they can see and understand that they're a separate being, and they're testing that out. They're pushing us away, they're running back to us. I love you, I hate you. It's crazy making, and it is an incredibly important stage of development for a kiddo.
And if I can add to that, my daughter never passed the terrible two. She's
Yep.
10 now. She still says no.
Mhm.
And that's
Totally.
one of the reasons why I really started this parenting program, because if I parent her the traditional Asian way, oh man,
Yeah. Yeah.
hell will break loose, right? So I love everything what you're saying so far. And then the other aspect of really the dynamics of it, the other aspect is really from the mom perspective or the dad, right?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes when the kid says no or they reject us, we have a total different meaning. Like, why can't you just do what I tell you to do, or what kind of things you mentioned? Like, the kids just doesn't seem to listen. They don't want to hear our thoughts. Well, we're trying to help them. So we have the best, the most positive intent. We don't want our children to be hurt, and we tell them what to do so they don't be hurt. But at the same time, they say no, then we feel rejected. I'm just trying to help you out, and there's that dynamic in there too.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing up an incredibly important point. And as you mentioned in the intro, the majority of women who find me, who I work with, are those high achieving, high performing, quote unquote type A women, meaning they're really used to getting things right. They're used to solving problems, fixing things, achieving, reaching goals. One of the things that can happen if we're not being really, I'm going to say mindful, reflective, paying attention, is that we can base our sense of success as a mother, as a parent, on whether or not our children are doing what we say and listening and following our own expectations, right? Because if our child doesn't listen, if they talk back, if they push boundaries, we can think to ourselves, I'm not a good mom. I must be doing something wrong. And that's, I think, what you and I are saying together here is that this stage of development, the pushing back, the saying no, it is exhausting. It is deeply uncomfortable and inconvenient for us as parents, but there's no problem here. This is a very appropriate stage of development. And my work is a lot around, okay, we have to learn as mothers, as parents, to take care of ourselves because that is stressful and we need to know how to be resilient to that stress. But that in and of itself is not symbolic of quote unquote bad parenting or any problem with a child.
And oftentimes I see or experience with working with clients is especially like I have to be this perfect parent.
Yes.
So in their definition, everybody has different definitions of perfect parent, but like on a highest level, how can I need to have happy children all the time. They got to be smiling all the time. I got to do things right. The house got to be clean. The laundry's got to be done. I have to, the kids are getting straight A's from school. I have to be, meet the expectation of the boardroom, and goes on and on and on of that highest level of achievement, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm having heart palpitations as you're talking, right? So not only is the doing piece, doing all those things in an exceptional way, exhausting and quite frankly impossible, all of those things that you're describing. This part about my child needs to be happy. This is a very important thing for us to recognize. Mental health means that we're willing to feel all of the emotions, and happiness is one of the emotions. And when we tell ourselves that we're failing if our child isn't happy, we're actually missing the whole point of healthy emotional and psychological development. Not only is it impossible to make sure that someone is happy all the time, right? But to take responsibility like that for our children's emotional experience is a recipe for burnout and a sense of failure and deep shame and guilt, because we won't we not only do we not want to raise children that are happy all the time. I think that's a problem, but it is a an entirely impossible feat for us because we're going to have kids that are unhappy a lot of our time. So I will often say, Alan, our job as parents is not to prevent our kids from feeling any pain. Our job is to learn how to be steady with them through their pain, which of course is what we mean when we talk about a secure attachment.
So let's actually dive into that. So I really love where the conversation is going, right? Because you hit up a couple of things nail on the head. So tell us when you say secure attachment, tell us about that. What that is, what type of attachments are there, and why this matters.
So, most of us, when we dream about becoming parents, we think about a relationship with our children where our kids feel safe with us, right? Where they come to us when they're having a hard time, where we can comfort them where they're sad, where we can have plenty of moments of joy and fun and play, but we also know that we are, again, I'll say the term again, a safe space for our kids to come to when they're having a hard time. That, in essence, is a description of a secure attachment. So that's kind of a clinical term, but really it means that our children are secure. They feel safe and secure in their relationship with us. They trust us. They know that we can be steady with them and for them, and that we're consistent in the way we show up. Okay. In general, what's required to show up as a securely attached parent is that we are able to stay steady even when dot dot dot, even when we're having a hard time, right? Meaning I'm feeling sad or disappointed or stressed. I can feel those things because I'm human, but also have a capacity to be grounded on the inside and regulate my own emotions. And I can stay steady when my child is having a hard time. Parenthood, motherhood is peppered with uncertainty and unpredictability. And when there are moments of uncertainty and unpredictability, our human brains will react. We're hardwired to see those things as threatening. They're not always threatening anymore in 2025, but when we first walked the planet, right, when we were early humans, any unpredictability and uncertainty meant that there was probably a saber-tooth tiger that was going to attack us. So our brains are still hardwired to that. And we know that life is just uncertain and unpredictable all the time. And our little people are going to feel that, and we're going to feel that. So, to be a securely attached parent, we need to know how to regulate our emotions, our nervous system. We need to know how to truly listen, like non-judgmental curiosity and listening to our kids. And we need to know how to be present so that we're not preoccupied by the past and the future. Now, this can feel like a big ask. We do not need to be perfect with these things. So, secure attachment, we actually know that there needs to be plenty of mistakes that we're making as parents to form a secure attachment. Because the other part of secure attachment, two more things, and I'll stop talking. But one is that secure attachment requires both connection and separation. So there's a parenting theory out there called attachment parenting, where, parents are wearing their babies, they're co-sleeping with their babies. It's baby-led parenting. I am not going to judge people for how they choose to parent their kids, but that is different from forming a secure attachment. True secure attachments require both connection and separation. They also require mistake and repair. So if we're a perfect parent and we are with our child 24/7, we're actually interfering in that formation of a secure attachment between ourselves and our kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. It's really interesting you brought that part up because I grew up in the 80s. In the
Yeah.
80s, we call a latchkey kid, right? So what
Yeah.
that meant was I go to school myself. This is in San Francisco. I will walk literally uphill. A story you hear from your
Yep.
grandparents. I walk in the snow. It's like 32 degrees outside, whatever. So that was kind of my story, minus the snow. So I'd walk uphill for like 0.7 miles and I'd come back home by myself. There's no adult supervision. I was 8 years old at the time.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like, oh, you can't even go out and put your kid alone outside. You could get in trouble with the law
Yeah.
enforcement, right? So the kids are bound to us or tethered to us 24/7. and they don't have their space. And the results of that, especially there's a statistics came out. Well, those of you who've been on the podcast, you hear me talking about this quite a bit. Is that one out of every five college grads that goes to a job interview brings their parents along for the job interview.
I
I know
don't even know what to say about that. That is kind of terrifying.
it just like the first time I heard about it, my brain was going, "What? You bring your parent for a job to a parent to a job interview? What is that all about?" No judgment, and it's because this tethering 24/7, and we don't leave enough space for the kid to grow.
Yeah, I mean, my clients are, for the most part, and I should say my clients, my friends, myself, until I learned how to really look at this differently. So many of us are desperately afraid of our children failing, stumbling, feeling emotional discomfort. And so we will do whatever we can to try and prevent that from happening. So there's a lot of doing that we tell ourselves is a part of good parenting. And I would say that the most successful parents out there, as defined by kids who have really trusting, solid relationships with their kids, where there is plenty of joy and laughter and also plenty of hard moments that they move through, that their kids trust them, and with children who are successful in their own lives, report health and happiness. And the parents who are the most successful are the parents who let their kids stumble and fall and fail. And they don't judge them, they don't swoop in and fix it, but they do say, I see you. Of course, you're feeling fill in the blank. I'm right here with you. Here's my hand. I'm going to see you. I'm going to be with you through this. You will get through to the other side. I'm not going to fix it for you, but I'm going to be here with you. In order to be that kind of parent, the catch is that we need to know how to sit with our own emotional discomfort. And if any emotional discomfort feels dangerous or wrong or somehow warrants an idea in myself that I've done something wrong, then I am not going to be able to sit with my own emotional discomfort, let alone my child. So I will go into fix it mode. And that's a problem.
As you're talking about this, so then this kind of narrative becomes like it's a process, right? So it's kind of becomes a chicken or the egg question. So how do I regulate my own emotion when I'm trying to teach my kids how to regulate emotion? And the way to do that is start understanding secure attachment, like how we were attached because of the 80s. A lot of kids grew up. So I always call it the pendulum swung the other way. So as in like we have all the free reign, we can drink water from the garden hose. We stay up until the sun goes down and bike riding with our friends, and then we come back. Because I used to ride around the ghettos in San Francisco with my friends on a bus. The three of
Yeah.
us, 3 years old, riding around like just really bad neighborhoods. The three of us, and obviously we got yelled at by our parents later, but we have free range, right? Versus now the pendulum swung the other way. And then what happened is because of that, there was a lot of anxiety, avoidance, or disorganized attachment that came about with it.